Hey SOS, we are here today again for another sponsor edition. We're very lucky. We have Valentine and Sebastian here today to go over all the information in regards to Clarivest and Biolistics. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I do apologize. Still kind of like a tongue twister for me. But you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Mhm.
Well, very nice to meet you all. Thank you for having us today. My name is Val Adia. I am the CEO of Boca Biolistics. I've been with the company since its inception. Um, Boca Bio is a pharma/hybrid CRO services where we help companies, whether diagnostic, medical device, and biopharma companies, uh, assist them in their R&D efforts all the way through clinical trials. And so we do that through our three lines of business. And so one where we first started off was we built a best of breed biobank for the in vitro diagnostic market. And with that, the demands for our services increased and therefore grew our CRO practice, where we ended up doing protocol development, interacting and growing our clinical site network, and doing monitoring, just like a traditional CRO would do that. But we function in the realm of doing customized, bespoke biospecimen collections through our network. So we've established a pretty sizable network, both domestically in the United States as well as as well as ex-US sites, so around the world. And then our last part of our business, we have a reference lab, a clinical central testing lab that also grew through the demands of our sponsors, our clients. And that basically allows us to do characterization on our samples as well as samples that's provided to us by our clients. So with our three lines of business, with our biospecimen repository, with our CRO, as well as our reference lab, we're able to service the life cycle, product life cycle of our sponsors all the way through early biomarker discovery, all the way through clinical submission. So we're very happy to have partnered with Sebastian and the Clarivest group. Certainly, they've been fantastic partners to date, and certainly we'll look forward to further growth in the future.
Thank you so much. And Sebastian?
Hi, my name is Sebastian. I'm a partner at the Clarivest Group. Is there a lot of echo on your end too? Oh, sorry. My name is Sebastian. I'm a partner at the Clarivest Group. We're a growth-focused equity investment firm. That's a different way of saying that we look to invest alongside existing ownership groups, and we look for our capital to help our partners sort of unlock new opportunities that they've already been pursuing, but maybe a little bit more quickly. The firm has been around for almost 40 years now. And we've always been sort of focused on finding the best management teams and the best companies we can in industries of our choosing, and partnering with them over sort of 4 to 8 years to really help them get to the next level. I was very excited when I met Val at the DIA conference a couple of years ago, and there was an opportunity to really back him as well as his other co-founder, who's today the CEO of the business, and really help them grow into sectors where they were already starting to have some interactions with customers, but at a quicker pace. And so what really gets us excited is when we have deeply invested operating partners. Clarivest doesn't own Boca Biolistics. We have the privilege of partnering with Val and Michael, and we're very excited to do that.
Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you guys here, especially, given that, CRO as well as a PE firm, we want to be able to give the sites access to all sorts of research out there and be able to communicate, especially with organizations that they otherwise probably would not have had that exposure to. So we really appreciate that you guys will be coming, and even more so that you're here to support the mission and vision of SOS. Because it's important, right, that we partner with individuals that are really trying to do more things for sites and bring more resources. But I won't hog the mic. Chris, Dan, Judy, do y'all have any questions? Feel free to come off the mic. You guys are all on the mic, actually.
Yeah, I actually did have a question. I know you mentioned in your intro that you partner with organizations in the U.S., but also internationally. What other countries do you partner, or are you in, or you're working with?
You're on mute. Let me see if I can take you off.
Oh,
Apologies. Go ahead.
okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, no,
Yeah.
but Val, he was on mute.
Oh, I thought it was me. I was
Yeah.
So great question, Judy. So we do partner up with clinical sites located in South America. We have a presence in Africa, in Asia, as well as in Europe as well. And the rationale behind that is when we first started off, which was quite interesting, is that we were looking for different genetic strains of these infectious diseases. So and also to boot, we were also looking for diseases not found here in the United States. For example, during the Zika outbreak, we did have Zika here back in 2016, but mostly it was found in Latin America, South Central America, as well as the Caribbean. So as far as we're concerned, we always want to be in sort of like the virus hunters, if you will, always looking for origins where there might be an outbreak, which may hopefully won't come back to here to the United States. But we're always looking for variances, whether it's infectious disease or for that matter, any other therapeutic area that may be found more prevalent in certain regions of the world versus the United States. So, but we are actively looking. To date, we're still looking to grow our clinical site network. One of the things that I find fascinating is engaging with sites that either have had very little experience in research, in which case we do engage with them through training, through helping them out in terms of whether they're either the staffing and educating them, or in this case, in the infrastructure, if they needed a freezer or a piece of equipment, in the case of a centrifuge or the like, where they have a fantastic patient population that we would like to engage with. In addition to having a willing investigator as well as clinical staff that's willing to participate in studies, we're always happy to engage with in those respective sites. But I would say that the partnership with sites in general, what I find is interesting, and certainly I think is mutually beneficial, in that obviously we are able to zero in on the patient cohorts that we're currently working with. But I find also interesting in terms of how we can give back to the clinicians, and to the clinical sites as well as the patients in the form of any kind of characterization. So in this case, if there are testing that we perform for a study that is FDA approved, that's something that we can release, and that would certainly have an impact to that respective patient's standard of care. We would love to share those results to the clinician, who in turn can share that with the participating subject or patient. So those kinds of things, I find is certainly interesting, especially in developing countries that may not have access to those respective characterizations or lab tests and the like. I'm very happy to give back to the sites in that respect.
Well, that's great to hear. And do you do the same for also interested sites in the U.S.? I know there are some sites that work on sample collection studies, but there's also others that I've heard who are interested in going into that area. They just didn't know where to start, who to reach out to.
Absolutely. I find how I've been doing this endeavor for over 2 decades, and I find sites as well as investigators. There are two types, right? Or there are multiple types. But the type that we like are the ones that are the clinicians or the PIs that are certainly very that have a very large sizable population, but also is willing and able to participate in research. So if you have those two, certainly we can follow up and finish off and providing support on our end here, whether it's through like I said, if they are interested in research and certainly want to get in it, we can help them out, go through that process. Through our evaluations, we have a questionnaire that we go through. I mean, there's some bare minimum where they would have to pass, but certainly we can walk them through that process. And if need be, we also provide support whether in this case, if there are sites that don't have access to either centrifuge or through a freezer, that's something that we can certainly negotiate and work out and provide them with that type of support in that respect.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
I guess one of the questions I would have is in particular for, I mean, both of you really, is are there specifics that you, I mean, naturally trying to engage with sites, but are there particular types of sites you're looking for, certain individuals that would be working at the sites? So some people want to speak with the CRCs, site directors, or just the PI themselves. What are you both individually looking for?
I would say, that's something that certainly you could have the best, the most decorated principal investigator out there. But truth be told, I mean, they are very important. At the end of the day, they're the ones who sign off. But it's the coordinators, it's the staff that really make it. I mean, truthfully, that's what, as far as engaging and partnering up with sites, there's no, if the study staff, specifically the study coordinator, is not there, work's not going to be done. I mean, in the sense that, the day to day. So I feel that it is critical in that respect, that we identify, and certainly we explain the whole processes. I mean, the one thing about our studies, and maybe I forgot or I failed to mention, is that our studies are minimal risk for right now. And what I mean by minimal risk is that you typically, when you talk about clinical studies, you're talking about either pharmaceutical or something that's more invasive, where you're introducing a potential drug to a respective patient. In our case, with our clinical studies and how we engage is in the realm of biospecimen collection. So it's ultimately taking biospecimens from respective patients and who are participating, obviously consenting them, and then taking the sample as well as getting the clinical data from these respective patients. But I would say that in terms of looking at, I mean, it'd certainly be great to have a coordinator that's a CCRC, right? That's already certified by ACRP. But for me, if they meet criteria, I mean, obviously, if they're willing, we'd be more than happy to help out and walk through that process.
Awesome, thank you.
Sebastian, I had a question about private equity's involvement. So, as we all know, and we'll actually have some good representation at the conference from private equity, specifically as it pertains to site acquisition and consolidation. Can you kind of give us, or maybe shed some color on private equity's interest in these type of trials, maybe, or this sector of research?
Yeah, so I think the clinical trial site ecosystem is really interesting. If, like Clarivest, you have a view that the outlook for drug and diagnostic R&D is favorable over the medium to long term, all that R&D, all those billions of dollars ultimately can't lead to innovation if there's not a PI interacting with the patient. And that's really the linchpin, that's the crux. And I think that the consensus is that sites that grow in scale are able to attract and recruit more patients, and thus offer more patients to the CROs and to the sponsors ultimately. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to consolidation and to scale within the site ecosystem, and that's why there's a lot of private equity involvement in it today. Having said that, it still remains an extremely fragmented space with sort of, depending on the numbers, we're talking about sort of 20,000 sites or 20,000 PIs in the US. And so despite the fact that there's some large players out there, there's still a lot of opportunities for sites that want to grow both organically and through acquisition to do so. And so we were focused on that space. That's how we met Val at the DIA conference. And I think that's why there's still a lot of appetite for the space from private equity. I would take this opportunity to sort of plug our model, which is a little bit different in that there's today a lot of consolidators who are looking to buy sites. The Clarivest lens is very different. If there's a full seller, that's not going to be a fit for us. We always want to have, as we do with Val, somebody who's deeply invested in the business going forward. And so for us, really, what we're looking for is a site or a grouping of sites where the leader really wants to step it up and sort of take it to the next level. Maybe there's an opportunity to provide liquidity to historical investors who aren't necessarily aligned with that growth ambition that they may have. and that's a perfect fit for us.
That's very done. Did you have any more questions? I didn't want to overspeak from you.
No, I mean, it makes sense. I was just curious how private equity appetite, it seems like everything's getting consolidated. I see this as maybe a good entry point for lesser experienced investigators to get some experience on their resumes, but I'm sure there's been work with established sites as well. Can you kind of give us a breakdown of maybe your ideal client or your typical client? Maybe ideal's unfair.
When you're saying client, are you mean supplier for Boca Biolistics, or you talk about partner for Clarivest?
The sites.
Okay, so for Clarivest, what we'd be looking for is probably a 2 or 3 site organization where the management team has demonstrated the ability to manage something that's decentralized, where the person we're backing isn't working day to day on individual trials, but instead is working to manage a system that's delivering on its commitment to its sponsors. And so that might be in 1 or 2 states. Maybe they've done an acquisition, or maybe they're at the point where they've got something that they're looking at and they'd like to acquire, and they want somebody to accompany them on that trajectory. So think of a sort of multi-site, probably working on 15 plus studies at that point. I would say we'd get particularly excited if there's a strong therapeutic focus. I think right now there's a lot of emphasis on CNS, but it might be other areas as well. I think that would be particularly interesting. But I think if there's a deep track record and they're still a generalist, that would also be of interest to us.
And as far as Boca is concerned, because Chris, I understand we're working with Boca as far as the SES.
Yeah, we've been working with, excuse me, we've been working with Lauren, so shout out to Lauren. We've onboarded a number of sites in our site network to work with Lauren. And he's been very accommodating, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
So Val, can you maybe speak to some of the sites as well as to maybe the benefits of starting a relationship with you guys?
Well, for us, like I said, we would like to work with sites. I mean, having experience is a plus, but if in fact a particular PI is interested in doing research and basically getting an entry point into research, into these minimal risk studies, we will be as accommodating as possible in terms of walking them through that process. I mean, I think that when we engage with clinical sites, we look at it as more as a partnership rather than something that's transactional. And that's how I see it, because how I see it is that if in fact we engage with a particular clinical site, and the site is one that we feel that has the best patient cohort, as well, the availability of patient cohorts, as well as a willing PI and staff, there will be repeat studies. And to boot, it's not just that, but as I mentioned before, if there are ways that we can also contribute or benefit to these respective patients, because our studies are considered minimal risk. So if there are ways where we can provide data of sorts, and that's the thing that I would say that the whole genesis of why Boca had grown, in the sense that at first when we first supported 2 decades ago, when we supported companies, it was okay for companies just to get remnant lab samples and basically just limited number of data that's associated with that. And that certainly changed. The FDA had mandated that it had to be fully consented and require a whole slew of metadata associated with that, as well as making sure that the patient has the ability to consent, and if they want to withdraw their consent, they had the ability to do that. So that's where the company had grown, and certainly in terms of the requirements for engaging with clinical sites. But I think in general, like what we look for sites are just ones that certainly are willing to participate, and like I said, support these sites through this partnership. So I think it's one thing, it's one thing if that's why for us, I get more excited in engaging with community-based organizations, like 2 to 3 practices, than going to these mega sites that have like 15 or 30 or 100 site networks. That to me is less exciting, because at the end of the day, like for me to engage, or the team to engage in the PI, it's much easier to do that than go to these big organizations that you're seeing in the marketplace now.
If I may, sorry, I'm getting an echo. When I spoke with Lauren about our network, Lauren did state that you are willing to work with, depending on the criteria of the study, research naive sites. You stated initially you're looking for experienced sites mainly, but just for your setting, you are willing to work with research naive sites, again, depending on the structure of the study.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to work with sites. I mean, in the early days, when early days at the company, I would be calling up sites myself, cold calling sites, and to boot, there were sites that when you try to tell them that we're interested in I would call a gastroenterologist, hey, I'm interested in your hepatitis B patients, and this would be for a biospecimen collection study. I would say probably 7 out of 10 times I would get I'm not interested. But fortunate enough, we do get traffic now where word has spread, and certainly clinical sites are coming to us, and we're fortunate enough with that. But to answer your question, Chris, I'm more than happy to have a discussion with research naive sites. And like I said, if it comes out to through working with them, explaining the processes and the like, we're willing to work with those respective sites as well.
Awesome.
In fairness to Val, I asked him his ideal client, but he does work with the research naive site. So thank you for the clarity, Val.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both for being here, Val and Sebastian, and shedding a light on how Clarivest and Boca are shedding a light on, shedding a light on how Boca and Clarivest are working to save our sites. I actually have a little request for Val, because many of the sites have heard about this kind of studies that are more simpler, but they don't really know what it is about or how it does work. Could you please give us a little bit of perspective or a summary how these studies work? I know every study, or every sample is different, but just like the essentials of it.
Sure. That's a great question, Monica. So I guess the majority of the studies that we conduct, the biospecimen studies, biospecimen collection studies that are involved, there's no trial, right? There's no phase for that matter. In this case, you know how you have traditional pharma trials where you have phase 1, 2, and 3. In this case, where our protocols are written, where majority of the cases where a patient is asked to consent, and they're asked by the PI because they may have a particular indication of sorts. Blood samples collected, they're consented, blood samples collected or biospecimens collected, and clinical data is collected. And it's a one-time visit, and that's it. So I would say the big difference in our studies is that it's number one, it's minimal risk. Number two, the number of patients could vary anywhere from 50 patients all the way to 2,000 patients. So it definitely varies. And 3, in terms of the duration, it is very short, meaning that depending on if we're able to meet the criteria, if it's a multi-site study, we could be done in 3 to 6 months. So it's very quick. And so what that means is that a couple things. One is that once we're done with this particular study, there could be opportunities for other studies following up after that. So I would say that's the inherent difference between the type of studies that we conduct or that we help manage versus say the pharma studies can go on for years and may just have a total of say 30 patients and then that are followed longitudinally for a period of several years. In addition to that, they're more invasive, they're more involved. So I would say that if as I mentioned before, if investigators are interested in getting into research, this would be a good entry point to participate.
That's great. I mean, and now I have a lot more questions, but probably I'm going to leave those questions for people to go straight to your booth and ask them. Like, for example,
Absolutely.
how regulatory works for this, or if the patients are going to get compensated on it. So I'm going to just leave that teaser there so people go to the booth and ask you directly, Val.
Sure. I would also comment the fact that, you know, we want to make this as seamless as possible for the clinical sites. And what I mean by that is that we will go and do the submissions to the respective review boards, whether it's local or central IRBs. We will do all that. We will do all of that. So we want to make it as easy as possible for the investigator and the clinical staff. So that's something that I pride our team in doing for the clinical sites. So, you know, there isn't that much. Obviously, the heavy lifting is done by identifying the respective patients, consenting, doing the biospecimens. But on the front end, we will help you out as much as possible as far as the submissions to the IRB, the kitting, the logistics. We will help you out in that respect. So, you know, like I said, this is a partnership, and that's something that, you know, we worked with some clinical sites, Monica, for decades. And the reason being that because they've had a good working relationship with Boca, and obviously we want to do the same with any sites that do come on board in our network.
And this goes all over all the different therapeutic areas, or is like more in some areas than everything? Like, for example, it's mostly for oncology, or it's mostly for endocrinology, or maybe there is opportunities for sites that do CNS, or how does that look?
Yeah, we don't. I mean, as far as therapeutic areas, it's very broad. I mean, we first cut our teeth in infectious disease. However, we've expanded to other areas in case endocrinology, rheumatology, cardiology, women's health, respiratory diseases. In this case, we're growing in terms of the oncology space, but we don't focus on a particular therapeutic area. That's driven by the sponsors that we work with in regards to the type of patients or type of therapeutic areas that they're working on. And some of the sponsors is broad. I mean, you can go from pediatrics to in this case oncology. You know, so it definitely with varying malignancies. So it definitely varies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, for both of you, I guess because we're getting close to time, so if individuals want to find you, obviously you both have a booth, but will you also have your team there on the floor, working the floor, or somebody be in the booth and you guys will be working on the floor, just so that we can understand how sites can be able to connect with you much more quickly, and, you know, because not everybody will always just straight to the booth, right?
So Chris mentioned Lauren from Boca Biolistics. She'll be there. She'll have sort of her cards and everything at the booth. And then myself or a colleague of mine, Justin, will also be there from Clarivest. So we're really looking forward to this conference.
Awesome. Well,
Sebastian, sorry, I have a question. This is my last one, I promise. So I was looking at your guys' website, and it says that, like, basically you partner with entrepreneurs and help them build strategically significant businesses. So is that does Clarivest has some assistance for sites that want to get to that level so they can be part of your team or the network?
So we don't have our own network, but what we're looking to do is sort of invest in a site or a site company that's got multiple sites. And then our role at Clarivest, we don't actually run the businesses. We ask our partners how we can be of assistance, building out their team, looking at acquisitions, helping assist financing. And then we sort of work in the background so that they can do more of what they do every day, which is working with their customers and working with their suppliers, while we handle some of the, I would say, the back office administrative matters.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys both so much. For those that are watching or that'll be watching later, This recording will obviously be on our SOS profile page. It will also be placed on YouTube, as well as it will be placed on the application, the SOS application that will be coming out very shortly. So you'll be able to get more information on both Clarivest and Boca Biolistics, along with this recording link, so that you can always go back and rewatch, because we're all busy, we always forget, and just ensure that you are ready, you're prepped and prepared to speak all the questions that you might have outside of the questions we've already got answered for you here. And we look forward for you guys to be able to meet both these organizations in person and be able to get any questions answered. But other than that, we have both Val and Sebastian linked here below on the event page. So if you want to reach out and connect with them directly, please do so. But other than that, you guys, thank you so much for being here. We are almost officially 3 weeks away, so it's right around the corner, you guys. Make sure that you take advantage of the conference hotel discount at the Omni. I believe it ends on the
27th.
27th of this month. After
Okay.
that, you're getting the full price. So just, a reminder there. And if you haven't registered and you plan to, please do so. If you have any questions, go at hello@saveoursites.com. And for anybody that's still wanting to sponsor, we're still getting emails, so it's been a bit crazy.
Yeah,
But if you're
last
still,
minute sponsors, crazy.
yeah, if you're still
By the
wanting to
way, which
sponsor,
hotel was it again?
There we go, Dan.
Omni
Omni-
Hotel.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And
All right.
everybody, please make sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Yes.
And I
Thank
have
you,
a
guys.
feeling a lot of people are going to be reaching out to Val and Sebastian
Yes.
after this.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Definitely.
A lot. I still have a lot of questions, so I'm definitely going to your booth.
Monica will be the first one there.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you guys so much, Val and Sebastian. We look forward to seeing y'all. And again, thank you for being supporters of SOS, and speaking
Thanks
to you
for being
soon.
here today.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Omni,
Bye-bye.
Omni, 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 Omni.